Education presents The Story of Matthew by Helen Jeffrey. Episode 8, Which Kingdom?
I wonder when we're going back to Galilee.
Do you really want to go back there?
Of course. It's my home, and it's a long time since I saw my sister.
Little Rabeth.
Yes. It's so lovely and green up there beside the lake. But here, well...
Galilee is too far from the centre of things. I don't think we'll go back there in a hurry. Here, well, if anything happened, we could be in Jerusalem in a day.
What's likely to happen?
Who knows? But something must happen soon from the way Jesus is talking.
Look there for a minute, Judas. You see that man? He must be coming up here looking for us.
For us? I wonder why. It's one of the Pharisees.
Perhaps this is the something that's going to happen.
You don't sound pleased.
I like things to stay the way they are.
Hey, you men there!
Except, of course, that you'd like to go to Galilee, Matthew.
Hey, are you deaf?
Arrogant, isn't he? I think I hear someone yelling. Are you speaking to us?
I have an important message for Jesus of Nazareth.
Oh, have you indeed? I'm not sure that he'll want to receive it.
How dare you? Take me at once to Jesus, or it may be the worse for you.
Really? I don't think so. A Pharisee with a treacherous heart.
Judas.
Well, he isn't going to browbeat me. I'm as good a man as any of them. Better since I've been with Jesus.
Look, are you going to lead me to Jesus, or must I find him for myself?
As far as I'm concerned, you can.
Come with me. I'll take you to Jesus. He's not far away. He's resting. But if your message is really important...
It is. It's from King Herod.
King Herod? What does he want with Jesus?
He doesn't want him. Far from it. I'm to warn Jesus to keep out of Herod's territory.
But that would mean not going back to Galilee either.
That's what Herod means. And if Jesus has any sense, he'll heed the warning. Do you get my drift?
But we're all Galileans, or nearly all. We must be allowed to go home.
Provided Jesus doesn't go with you. I don't think Herod would mind. He's not interested in a bunch of fishermen.
But I'm not a fisherman.
Let's get some peace. Come on. Give your message to Jesus and then leave us alone. They've gone. And good riddance.
I don't think you should have been so rude to them, Judas.
Well, Jesus wasn't very polite himself. Aren't they the traitors to our Jewish nation, trying to get in well with Herod so he'll give them important jobs?
Well, it's not so long since people called me a traitor because I was a tax gatherer. They would spit at the ground whenever I passed.
But that's all over now, boy, so you can cheer up. Don't forget those splendid horses I was telling Rabeth about.
But that was just a dream, Judas.
Oh, no. All you need is patience.
Jesus talks about death so often now, even death on a cross.
Oh, you're not help the situation by glooming over it. It's up to us to get him to snap out of that sort of mood.
Do you think Herod really means to harm him?
Well, that man said he means to kill Jesus if he can.
First the herald, then the king.
Let's stop under this tree for a rest, Master.
Very well, then.
Doesn't the city look beautiful spread out there below us?
Jerusalem. Oh, Jerusalem. You killed the prophets. You've stoned so many of the messengers God has sent to you. I just long to gather you under my protecting care, the way a hen gathers her chicks under her wings. But you wouldn't come. You wouldn't let me. You've made the wrong choice. If only you had known. But there is nothing but misery and horror before you. And it's your own fault.
Do you feel... Could we move on? It'll be dark before we get into the city and, this road has a bad reputation.
What's wrong with you, Matthew?
I'm all right.
I told you it's up to us to help Jesus. And a great help you are with tears running down your face. What is it?
Oh, I'm sorry, Judas. You see, our scriptures are so full of God's promises.
Great promises, Matthew. And I believe he's going to start fulfilling those promises any day now. So that's not something to weep about.
But how can he? His people are disobedient and unfaithful.
You've been listening to Jesus too credulously. Don't set your standards too high. There are plenty of people around worshipping God.
But are they worshipping in spirit and in truth? You know Jesus tells us that his Father wants people to worship him in that way.
Yes, well, truthful people? I hope you'll find them.
So you're going now, are you, Matthew?
All ready for the road. Do I look all right?
Oh, fine, fine.
You don't think Jesus minded me asking leave to go home on a visit?
He's very understanding. You should know that by now.
It was that Pharisee, the one that came from Herod. Maybe Jesus won't go back to Galilee after that warning, and I felt I had to see Rabeth again.
Don't stay away too long, Matthew. We'll miss you.
Miss me? Will you, Andrew? Oh, well, goodbye for now. I'll come back as soon as I can.
Goodbye, Matthew. So he's off, is he, Andrew?
Yes.
Odd fellow, Matthew.
I don't know why you should say that, Judas.
He gets quite discouraged sometimes. Takes me all my time to cheer him up.
What does he get discouraged about?
Jesus talking about suffering and death.
He has done that quite a lot lately.
Of course, Matthew takes it far too seriously. I keep telling him he must have patience. After all, Jesus has more sense than to go about openly declaring his intentions
What intentions?
about setting up his kingdom.
He's always talked quite openly, and even spoken publicly about that.
Yes, but his methods. He talks about meekness and peace and love.
You mean you don't think that's the way his kingdom will come?
Oh, how can it? Andrew, think. Has any king or general ever established a kingdom by loving his enemies and turning the other cheek when anyone slapped their face?
Maybe not. But I thought, isn't Jesus' kingdom going to be different from any other kingdom?
More powerful, I hope.
That was great, Matthew.
You must have been practicing every day to still be so good.
Oh, not every. There isn't time, you know.
Well, it's great to have you back. Now, what about this wedding?
Oh, when is it?
Oh, it's in a couple of weeks. Just enough time for you to fit into your place again. You know all the music.
Oh, no, Jacob. I can't stay in Galilee as long as that.
Oh, Matthew. Jacob gets mad at me because I'm not nearly so good without you.
You'll just have to practice more, Amos. You could be really good, you know, but you're just too lazy.
I haven't got the time, Matthew.
If you made up your mind to practice even half an hour a day, you could do it.
Oh, Matthew.
But meanwhile, Matthew, we need you. Will that band of fishermen fall apart without you if you stay away for a month or two?
It's the other way round, Jacob. I might fall apart if I stay away from them.
I do think you might try and fit in this wedding, Matthew. Your own loyalty.
This is getting you nowhere, Jacob. You're just wasting your practice time.
But why did you come back then?
Why did I come? If I wasn't going to rejoin you? Perhaps I should have stayed away. I'm sorry. Tax gatherers don't have many friends, and I thought you were still friends of mine. All right. I'll go and let you get on with it. So there was nothing to do but come away.
I wondered about that. Oh, but it's really lovely to have you home. I wish you could stay longer in Galilee.
I wish I could, Rabeth.
But you won't. Why won't you, Matthew?
I don't stay away from Jesus. I need to be with Jesus. I need his help, his strength. Sometimes I begin to wonder if I'll ever return home.
Don't say that, Matthew. Oh, don't. What would happen to me?
Well, you could go back home.
Oh, I wish I could. I really do.
What's Miss Rabeth getting so excited about then?
She wants me to stay at home.
And he says he may never stay at home again.
What a thing to say, sir. You shouldn't upset your sister that way.
I'm sorry, Anna, but I can't help wondering what the future holds.
Aren't you going to write a few more pages of notes?
Oh yes, I must bring them up to date. Sometimes I wonder if anyone will ever read them.
Of course they will. Someday in the future, people want to know all about Jesus' teaching.
I wonder if Jesus is the great king, then he'll be able to tell people himself all he wants them to know.
That's what Judas says. Jesus will be a great king.
But Jesus keeps talking about suffering and death. In that case, who'll want to read about him?
But Judas says that...
Yes? What does Judas say?
Well, isn't Jesus just talking like that to deceive the rulers so they won't be afraid of him?
What? When did Judas say that?
Didn't he say it the last time you had him here?
Not in my hearing he didn't.
Anyway, what does it matter when? Don't you trust me, Matthew?
I don't know whether I do or not. But I don't think I trust Judas.
But Jesus chose him as one of his band. You shouldn't be setting yourself up to know better than Jesus.
The longer I'm with Jesus, the more I realise that his reasons for doing things are different from ours. God says in the scripture, my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. Jesus fulfills that too.
Matthew, how can you dare say that of any man?
Jesus isn't any man. Jesus is God's man, the Messiah.
Then how can he talk about suffering and death?
He says the scriptures foretell that sort of thing about the Messiah. I wish you could have heard some of Jesus' messages.
Among all those men? Oh, Matthew, how could I?
Well, often there were crowds and crowds of people, lots of them women. I've often seen Mother among the crowds listening to what Jesus was teaching.
Our mother? Oh, but what I could do, if you'd let me...
What?
Perhaps I could read your notes. Then you'd be sure they'd be of some use.
Read my notes? Well, I suppose you could.
Do let me, Matthew.
Of course, if you'd like to. But you'll try and leave them in the right order, the way you found them, won't you? You won't get them all mixed up?
I'll try, Matthew. I really would like to know what Jesus is teaching.
But listen, Rabeth, put Judas right out of your head. He'll do you no good.
As if I could. He tells me to put Judas out of my head. Why should I? Judas is the only interesting thing that's ever happened to me. It's all right for my brother. He throws up all his responsibilities, goes away, travels the country, meets all sorts of people, sees Jesus work miracles, hears him teach. While I've never even had any responsibilities. He's taken me away from my home, the people I loved. They hate me now, except Judas. He's never even been here when Matthew's away from home. Oh, but he might come someday, and I wouldn't send him away. I'd find some way of seeing him, even in spite of Anna. I'm sure he'll come again. Oh, I wonder if he would, if he could ever really love me. He's never really said anything. Oh, but he looks at me so, and some of the things he says. I'm sure he's interested. Why should I try to forget him? When Jesus comes into his kingdom, I wonder where Matthew thinks Judas will be. I will not put him out of my mind. My future's bound up in his.
In Matthew by Helen Jeffrey, Matthew was played by Mark Clowney, Rabeth by Lauren Hutchison, Anna was played by Jenny Erskine, Judas by John Lander, Jesus by Paul Bailey, and Andrew by Mark Smith. Other parts were played by members of the Commission drama team. The play was produced in Commission Studios in Belfast by Colin Flanagan. Episode 9 is entitled Walk the Same Road.